Tonight, the breaking news, a sitting Democratic governor admitting
I darkened
tonight
my face as part of a Michael Jackson.
thinks that he can apologize and keep his job as governor of Virginia.
I think he should step down as the governor.
The governor and the attorney general for the Commonwealth has shied away from talking about it.
I canvassed for this guy, I phone banked for this guy, and to see that he was like, he really didn't understand this in college. I mean, if you don't understand this by college, it's kind of sad.
We're in Richmond, the former capital of the Confederacy. I think about that every time these things happen because people are like, oh, I'm so shocked, I'm so surprised. Why? This was the home of the Confederacy. We have all these monuments, you know, that are uplifting these Confederate generals. And when you walk by them almost every day on Monument Avenue, it's just sort of this cool reminder that people still don't really understand what that era was about. It was about slavery.
We are the only historically black college that is located just miles away from the Richmond Capitol and the governor's mansion.
VCU differs from Virginia Union and U of R. We're still a predominantly white institution, but we have a lot more diversity.
I feel like University of Richmond is much more insular. It's a little bit more homogeneous.
This is a university in the South. It started in the 1840s. You know, it's gonna have a racist past, just like, you know, honestly, most colleges in the United States, period.
We do not tolerate any bigotry or racial bias or opinions because we know what it's like to succumb to that. That's why we go to a HBCU. That's why we're at Union.
We have to be at the heart of it. Richmond, Virginia has a history of prejudice and segregation.
It's definitely brought up the trust of our government. It's also brought up, you know, what else can they do if they've done this?
If we don't take a stand now to make sure that we continue this honest dialogue that will hurt but be necessary, then we will never receive full equality, full justice. We will never eradicate institutional racism.
We have conversations about it. We have a lot of panel discussions about what it means to be black in America.
I think it's, you know, important to kind of look back and, you know, be honest about what the institution did.
We have projects on the campus that actually archive and digitize our yearbooks and our newspapers and just documents that have unfolded this story of Richmond's past with race.
We went through the yearbooks of VCU and the predecessor schools and found a bunch of examples of racist imagery.
I think everyone kind of has this notion that separates the past from where VCU is now.
One of the biggest issues is simply apathy towards the photos.
It's the pictures from the 80s that's really like, oh my gosh, I can't believe those existed. I can't believe those were published.
A lot of those people are still alive today and may show up as our bosses or executives that we come across.
People came upon the realization that this isn't some distant thing that happened in other schools or in the Deep South.
Just last semester, we had an incident on campus where a tenured professor called campus security on a visiting professor who is black. And that was a microaggressive, racist situation. So when you sort of juxtapose the yearbooks that came out in the 80s with this situation that just happened last semester, it isn't as overt, but we still know what happens when campus security or police are called on black people. They lead to violent, potentially deadly situations.
These scandals break out and, you know, they will get maybe a day or two of attention and media attention, but afterwards it kind of dies out. And you don't really hear students engage in discourse about these photos.
These things are put on Snapchat, Instagram, and people broadcast these blackface and these malicious acts towards minorities.
If racism was actually grounds for being impeached or for an elected official to resign, we wouldn't have politicians already in government who are racist. We elected a racist as our president.
They do it in the attitude of superiority, of privilege, and it puts us in a position where we always have to be defensive of our culture.